15 minutes after departure.
An icon of the skies, the Vulcan is one of Britain's best-loved engineered aircraft.
Vulcan XM594, follow the company Airbus onto taxiway uniform.
Many have had the privilege of seeing this beautiful plane in flight, but that chance will not come again because of the challenges and expense of keeping the plane in the air. Potsdam, July 1945, the start of the Vulcan story. Within a month, the USA had dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan, and in the UK, Tory Prime Minister Winston Churchill had lost a general election to the Labour Party's Clement Attlee, who by the end of August 1945 had proposed to the Cabinet that the UK develop its own atomic bomb. This is Britain's first production of the atomic bomb. Codenamed Blue Danube, it had the same explosive power as those dropped on Japan, about 16,000 tons of conventional high explosive. The RAF's 3 V-bombers, the Vickers Valiant, the Handley Page Victor and the Avro Vulcan, were each designed to carry this huge device to Russia in response to a Soviet nuclear attack. The strategy of deterrence was born. Pilot Neil Barton was the captain of a Vulcan plane and has over 3,000 flying hours of the Vulcan under his belt.
I used to be a Vulcan pilot back in the 70s. I started off as a co-pilot on 50 Squadron and a captain on 44 Squadron, rank of flight lieutenant, and the dates were 1971 to 1977. So I used to live under the final approach to Manchester Airport when I grew up, so that's where I used to see aeroplanes. I used to cycle to the factory airfield at Woodford, where they produce Vulcans, and see aeroplanes flying around. Then I joined the Air Training Corps, and after that I applied to join the Air Force and was fortunate enough to get in. I got my private pilot's licence thanks to the Air Training Corps in 1967, got my wings in the Air Force in 1970, started flying the Vulcan in 1971, and flew the Vulcan from 1971 to 1977. After that I did various other jobs, mainly flying instructor type jobs, left the Air Force in 1986 and went into commercial aviation.
During the design phase, engineers knew the operational procedures would require a unique design.
It had some unusual flying characteristics because of the shape of the aeroplane being a delta wing, but the most important skills were probably the ability to be part of a crew or to lead a crew and to operate as a member of a team in a crew. So sort of what is now called human factors were probably more important than any sort of physical skill. Some of the most demanding bits physically were 2 extremes. Sitting on a hard ejection seat wearing an immersion suit for 5 hours doing a flight that was not particularly interesting.
For the 7 years Neil flew the Vulcan, he saw many developments within the aircraft and was constantly learning new skills.
Flying the Vulcan, the pressure was variable. Sometimes you had plenty of time to do things. Sometimes you had to do things, make decisions quite quickly. Operating with the crew, the leadership of the crew sort of moves around, so everyone had their own moment within the 5 hours of practicing the mission.
The Vulcan carried a crew of 5 people on 2 levels. The pilot and a co-pilot sat on the top deck, and the radar navigator, plotter navigator and air electronics officer sat rearward on the lower deck.
Being in charge of such a large aircraft, I look back on it now, all that time ago, and I'm amazed that the Air Force would put me in charge of that huge bomber when I was only 25 years old.
The talented crew, as well as the fans that used to watch the Vulcan fly, were amazed by the sound of such a futuristic aircraft.
The aircraft that's been flying for the last few years has been treated fairly gently, and one of the things that's quite noticeable is that it's using nowhere near as much power as it used to, and that's one of the things that nostalgically I miss, if you like. It made a really incredible howling noise on takeoff.
The Vulcan means a lot to both the crew and the public, And stories of the Vulcan will be remembered by many now that she has been grounded.
One of my best memories is being sent out to Cyprus and having a good working relationship with the Lightning Squadron that was based there, and they would try and shoot us down and we would try and evade, and we had some really good, interesting, quite exciting flying for that detachment. So that's one of my best memories. I think it's a great shame that the Vulcan won't fly again. I think everyone involved with it has got safety as their first priority, and that is quite right. It should be the first priority. It's also a very, very expensive and complicated business, technically, to keep the thing going. So I would like to see it fly again, but you have to accept that everything stops. Would I want to fly the Vulcan again? It's not practical. It's such a long time ago that I did it. But if I were 30 years younger and current, then it'd be great to do the sort of flying that's involved to display the Vulcan. But it would need a bit of a magic wand to be waved, I think, to do that.
Vulcan XM594, contact Doncaster approach on 118.1. Vulcan XM594, Doncaster approach. Turn left heading 320, descend and maintain 9,000.
To most people, the sky is the limit. To those who love aviation, the sky is home.
Clear to land 28 right, Vulcan XM594.
And now a new chapter of its life is about to begin.